happy May. I'm Ariel, and today I'm going to talk about the 9 books that I read in April. So first up, I've been rereading the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, and I read 4 books in April. The first one was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is definitely the most famous of the Chronicles of Narnia books. But this story is about 4 siblings who wander into another world through the back of a wardrobe in their uncle's house. I think it's their uncle. So the 4 of them wind up in Narnia, and they discover that Narnia has been sort of taken over by an evil witch who has made it be winter, like eternally. So apparently they find out that the 4 of them have been prophesized to take down the witch and restore Narnia to what it used to be. And so that's what they do, basically. It's a pretty straightforward story. There's not a lot of twists and turns, to be honest. Oh, and then the lion, of course, is Aslan, who is sort of the creator of Narnia and the all-powerful lion, basically. The next book in the series is The Horse and His Boy. This one is definitely the most different out of all of the stories so far, as it doesn't focus on like the main characters, those 4 siblings. This book focuses on a boy who is a slave in the country that's south of Narnia, and one day he overhears his master, I guess, talking to a rich man who's coming to town wanting to buy the boy. And of course he's like upset by this, and he runs out to the stable where he just starts talking to the rich guy's horse for no reason. And he's very surprised when the horse talks back to him, because in Narnia they're talking animals and that's just like normal, but down in the southern country that's not a thing that happens normally. So it turns out that this horse was kidnapped when he was just a baby foal and brought down to, I think it's Telmaine, and has been playing just a dumb regular horse for most of his life, but he actually wants to go back to Narnia, and so he tells the boy, he's like, well, why don't we go together? We can escape to Narnia in the north and be free and happy. And so that's what they do. And along the way they also meet up with another girl who is native to Telmaine, but she is running away because she doesn't want to get married. And she also happens to have a Narnian horse who was brought to Telmaine when she was a baby and has been hiding. And so then together the 4 of them go on an adventure and travel north and try to get to Narnia, and they also wind up saving a kingdom in the process. And you know, as far as that goes, it's in the same very much like fast-paced style of the other books. Anyway, and then the next book is Prince Caspian, which brings us back to the 4 siblings from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. They have been in the normal world in England for about a year, when all of a sudden they are sort of dragged back into Narnia. They're not sure why at first, but they wind up on an island, which they eventually realize is Cair, where they used to rule as kings and queens, except the place has fallen to ruin, and they realize that it's been hundreds, maybe even thousands of years since they were last in Narnia, even though for them it's only been a year in the real world. And so then they meet this dwarf who tells them that Narnia is in trouble, basically. All of the old Narnia ways have sort of fallen to ruin, and Narnia has essentially been taken over by the Telmaines from the southern country. But there is a prince named Caspian who is about to go to war to try and take back Narnia. And so then the 4 siblings decide to help him. Then the next book is The Voyage of the Dawnshire. So after the 4 siblings return home after Prince Caspian, the 2 older siblings, Peter and Susan, were told that they're probably too old and they're never going to come back to Narnia again. So this time it's just the younger 2 siblings, Edmund and Lucy, and also their cousin, who kind of gets sucked up with them and brought to Narnia all of a sudden. They go through a painting of a ship and they get dumped in the ocean. And luckily for them, there is a ship nearby and it happens to have Prince Caspian on it. So he rescues them, and they find out that Prince Caspian or actually King Caspian now, is going on a quest to try and find his father's loyal advisors, who were all banished when Caspian's uncle took over. And so now he's trying to find them and bring them back, or at least revenge their deaths if they have died. So this book is pretty different from the other ones in that it's like an adventure, and they're all exploring different islands, and it's very episodic. Every island they go to is different, and they sort of figure out what they need to do there, and then they move on. So I gave all 4 of these books 3 stars. I can appreciate the like historical significance of books like this, but a lot of the problems that I have with classics is just like the level of casual sexism and racism that's present. Like, that might have been normal back when these books were written, but that doesn't mean I enjoy reading it now. So I have kind of mixed feelings about them. And I also think that they are just written for a very young audience, and that they are very short and very straightforward. There's not a lot of description even, like it's very basically just telling you what's happening. There's not a lot of like showing instead of telling. So I don't know, I'm looking forward to finishing the series. There's only 2 books left and I can probably get those read in May. So I'll wrap up my feelings when I do finish the entire series, I guess. So the next reread that I'm working on is the Pendragon series by DJ McHale. I'm pretty sure I've been saying his name is DJ Hale, which is not right. So I read the 4th book, which is The Reality Bug, in April. This is set on a territory that is very similar to Second Earth in appearance, but it has a lot of advanced technology. Bobby shows up on this territory sort of very ready to go, but he finds out that the traveler from the planet, Aja, she thinks she has everything under control and there's nothing to worry about, and she just wants Bobby to leave right away, basically. Essentially the problem with this territory is that on VLX they have this virtual reality system called Lifelike, and pretty much all of the citizens of the entire territory are in this virtual reality and kind of neglecting the actual reality. So that's where the problem starts, and then I have to figure out what to do about it. This book is sort of where the story starts to take a turn, and it doesn't follow exactly the pattern that you're used to from the first 3 books. I definitely was like, when I put this book down, I was ready to jump right into the next one, but unfortunately my library doesn't have the next one, so I need to figure out a way to get my hands on that. But I gave it 4 stars, and I'm looking forward to continuing the series. The next book that I read is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. I've had this book on my TBR since the movie came out a couple of years ago. It's about a couple, Rachel, who is Chinese American, and Nick, who is Singaporean, but he went to boarding school in England, and now he goes to he teaches at the same university that Rachel does. And Nick invites Rachel to come with him and spend the summer in Singapore so that he can attend his best friend's wedding. And she agrees to go, thinking it's sort of a casual thing. But when they arrive, she's a little bit shell-shocked to discover that her boyfriend is actually like ultra rich. And then the story is about sort of her navigating that dynamic, trying to come to terms with her boyfriend's status, I guess. I thought the movie was pretty good. It was, just kind of a cute, fluffy love story. But in the book, it's much more like in your face about how rich these people are, and they're constantly talking about their money and what they're buying. Personally, I found that kind of off-putting. I felt like in the movie, like if you just see, a piece of jewelry, at least for me, I can't really tell exactly how much that jewelry is worth, but when you're told like, oh yeah, this is like a $3 million necklace or whatever, I just like roll my eyes, and I'm kind of disgusted by that level of like spending money. And so I had a hard time enjoying the book because of that aspect. Once you do sort of get like halfway into the book, and it focuses more on Rachel and Nick's relationship and their family dynamics, that part was more interesting to me, and I did enjoy it in the end, I guess. But overall, I think I gave the book 3 stars. I think if you're interested in the story, I would just recommend the movie over the book, which I do not say often. The next book that I read is The Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty. This is the final book in the Databad trilogy. The book starts about 5 years after the second book ends, and we get a much broader look at the world than in either of the first 2 books. Our main characters sort of get scattered all over the area, and we get to go back to Egypt. We also get a look at Taintri, as well as northern Devastana. So I thought that part was really interesting, and then of course there's a lot of political intrigue and a coup going on, and I really just enjoyed this entire series. I gave them all 5 stars, including the Empire of Gold. I think that this series just became a really fast favorite. It's really beautifully written, the characters are very well developed, and I highly recommend it. The next book that I read is True Story by Kate Reed Petty. This is a mystery thriller, and in the beginning we follow a high school boy named Nick who is on a lacrosse team, and some of the other members of his lacrosse team are accused of sexually assaulting a girl from a private school nearby. This is a really hard book for me to describe because I went into it thinking it was going to be about Alice, the girl who was allegedly sexually assaulted in high school, and more about her story, but a lot of the book focuses on Nick, or is told from the perspective of Nick, who becomes a raging alcoholic, and Alice's part of the story is sort of told through letters. We see glimpses of her college essay writing process, and then also emails that she's writing to a friend of hers after escaping a horrifically abusive relationship. So they start together in high school, but they diverge and sort of live separate lives, but then they do come together again in the end. Personally, I did not enjoy the writing style at the beginning of the book. I think the section where they were in high school was just written very badly, which I think was a stylistic choice made by the author that I just did not like. And then there's the second section where Nick is like, he goes out to a cabin in the woods and just gets completely drunk and does a lot of stupid things, and I didn't really see the point of that section either. And then it just felt like I didn't really know what the point of the story was until I was like 80% of the way through the book, and then at that point I was so frustrated with the earlier part of the book that the ending reveal was not worth it to me. It did not make anything better. I think maybe that this is just it didn't align with my preferences. The story overall, I guess, is interesting, but I don't know, I gave it 3 stars. It's not terrible, but it was not great either. And then the last book I read this month is Hankyu Dencha by Arikawa Hiro. This is a Japanese book. It's a very cute slice of life type of book. It takes place along the Hankyu Dencha line in Osaka, and essentially you're following people as they come on and off the train. At each stop, we'll switch characters. You see a couple of couples get together, you see an older woman and her granddaughter, and then you also see like a couple of women breaking up with their boyfriends. And then once you get to the end of the line halfway through, there's about a 6-month gap, and then you turn around and come back down the line and you go back to all the same characters again and see where they've come in 6 months. So I thought that was interesting. It was a very sweet story. Everybody gets a happy ending in the end. So also, it's very easy to read. If you're looking for a Japanese book that's easy to read, I would recommend this one. I gave it 4 stars. So that's everything that I read in April. This will be the last video that I make in this space here because I am moving actually tomorrow. The movers come, so I need to go finish packing up. I'm also going to try to make some vlogs about the moving process, so hopefully that'll be next week's video. If you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and I'll see you next time.